You're listening to Cooper Talk.
Welcome to Cooper Talk. I'm your host, Steve Cooper, and remember, I'm only as hip as my guests. I got to tell you something, people. My guest today is quite the talented gentleman. You may know him as the frontman of the very influential band Livng Colour. You may also know that he was in the movie Platoon, directed by a very acclaimed director. He's been involved in a lot of projects, but his latest project is Soul Saver, which has a really important message, and it's doing a lot with the song House Arrest. And my guest is Corey Glover. How you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So I want to hear. I listened to the song, the House Arrest. Very good, really good groove. Tell me about how did this whole project come to fruition?
Well, I've known Jamie for a long time. He's a close family friend, basically, and he sort of hit me to what Joe was doing, and I knew the guy from Black 47. He's one of the newer members from that, and so it was like folks I knew. It was a very comfortable sort of situation. We all lived in a general vicinity of each other, two different states. I live in New York and they live in Connecticut, but it was a relative ease in order to get the information to each other, and the song started out with this groove, and Joe had this whole idea about quarantine and lockdown and the things it would bring about, and the ideas and the issues that would come about because you're stuck in a place for longer than you need to be in some cases.
Now, how has the house, everything quarantine, pandemic, how's it affected you creatively? Because everyone says it's different. Like in the first month, they're like, oh, we're going crazy. Then all of a sudden, they started relaxing and their minds started expanding. How's it affected you?
It hasn't affected me that much. I mean, I'm actually rather happy about this. It gives me a chance to really settle down, hang out with my family, which I haven't had a chance to do in a very long time. Where I can see them every day. I can watch them, watch my kids grow up. I can see my life as I have it right in front of me, as opposed to thinking about where I have to be in the next 24 hours, or what plane I have to catch, or what show I have to do, or where I have to be. This gave me a chance to really stop and smell the roses, really.
Now, the song, back to the song House Arrest, it goes out, I know some of the money's going to rain. You seem to be, are you a political guy? Because I know I've seen your Facebook, you really pushed the vote. And the thing is, when I saw you pushing the vote, I grew up, I've always voted. And then you look at the numbers and you see like 50 or 60% people voted. And to me and my friends, it's common sense. I mean, just because that's what we know. What made you get involved with the voting and pushing people to vote? Have you always been you've pretty much been a political guy, right?
Well, I've always felt like I've always been a part of the process. My parents really pushed that sort of idea with me, that they were part of the process. They worked the polls during election time. I was born I was a planned birth. And they had to do it before or after the election, because that's how important it was for them. And they instilled that in me, that there's no reason to complain if you're not participating. There's no reason to not be a part of the process. And it doesn't matter which side you're on. I'm not partisan that way. I feel like be a part of the process and let the ideas and the truth of the ideas shake out in that process.
Now, how have you seen how you can influence people voting? Is there any answer that certain techniques you try to take that helps people sit there and go, we're going to get out and do it?
Just go out and do it. Do it. I mean, if you're old enough, do it. When I was of age to vote, as I said, I was born around election time. So when I became of age to vote, I went from the club to the polling place. Literally, I got out of the club at 5 o'clock in the morning and walked my ass to my polling station. So it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult to do. I know sometimes it seems like it's difficult to do, but it's not. It's the easiest thing you can do to show exactly where you are and it's the price you pay for citizenship. It's the price you pay for living here. It's a very simple thing to do. I mean, I know you're paying taxes and all that stuff, but this is a real way to participate in that idea.
Now, back to the Soul Saver song. The proceeds go to Rain. I wanted to ask you, in the middle of the song, it sounds like a hotline. Someone's talking. Is that an actual call of something, or is that something that you did in the studio?
I think that there's something that they did in the studio. That wasn't a part of that. I believe that's I don't believe that's real. I don't think that's real.
Now, what got you into the music business? I know you're an actor. I want to talk to you about Platoon, because I remember seeing you. I remember the videos were coming out of Livng Colour. Then I was like, oh my God, that's Corey. What got you into? Did you get into acting as a young kid? I mean, how did you end up in that movie?
Well, I've been an actor since I was about 14 or 15 years old. But what's interesting is that I've been a singer since I was about 6 or 7 years old. So singing has been around longer, but I've always been an actor. And I auditioned. I did lots of commercials. I was always an extra on something. So that was my chosen profession. I was a professional actor. And depending on where I was in my life, singing was a sideline and acting was the main gig, and then there was singing was the main gig and acting was the sideline. So it's all been there constantly. I've been doing this, like I said, I've been doing this forever.
Now, did you have to audition, and what was it like shooting that movie?
Yeah, I auditioned for it. It was one of many auditions. I've auditioned for many movies and many made TV shows and all kinds of stuff. And the thing about this particular movie, it had been in the pipeline for a very long time. The idea of them making this movie happened a bunch of times. So they audition people all the time. And I had auditioned, I had gotten a call back, and then I heard nothing about it for a while. And then one day I got a phone call from my manager saying they're interested in you for Platoon, because the guy that got the job decided he didn't want to do it. So I was somebody's replacement, which is basically the story of my life. And so it was a sort of a whirlwind. They called me on a Monday. I was on a plane on a Tuesday, and I was in the Philippines Wednesday morning. And I was there in the Philippines for 3 months shooting Platoon. It was amazing. It was amazing for my very first time working on a feature film. And everybody on that set all the actors for the most part were new to the business, relatively new. They were all actors and they were all seasoned professionals, but they had a lot of them had not done a feature film of this kind ever. So we're a bunch of newbies in this situation, which sort of lent itself to the idea of what Platoon was about, which is about a platoon of soldiers and how they would deal with in an adverse situations. And I feel like we pulled it off.
Now, how was the camaraderie on the set? Because you are a bunch of young guys. You're in the Philippines. I mean, you're in the Philippines for 3 months. It's not like, hey, you know what, you're going to Vancouver to shoot a show for a week.
Right. So we became brothers. We banded together. There's a documentary out about the making of Platoon and the guys that are in Platoon, and you can find it on Amazon right now. And we all sort of bonded because it was a crucible of fire. Because the minute we got there, they put us in boot camp, and we had to have basic training. So we had to dig our own foxholes. We had to clean our own weapons. We had to learn how to do ambushes. We had 40-click hikes. We did all that stuff. We constantly were working. We were a working platoon by the time the cameras even rolled. We were there for 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks before the cameras even rolled, just to be prepared for the shoot. So it caused us to really bond with each other, to really sort of get to know one another. A lot of us were musicians, and so we started a band. We would take over the lounge band in the hotel's equipment, and we start playing. I mean, we became really good friends. All of us become really good friends. And even now when we see each other, and understand this is 30, almost 40 years later down the line, we're still really close. Really, really close.
Well, I've heard that. I mean, I heard, even you see that on hit TV shows when a set, everyone becomes close. The crew, the cast, everyone comes close. And it's because as you guys, you were basically in the service. I mean, you were doing, it wasn't like, hey, there's a grip setting something up, saying, no, dig your own hole.
Exactly.
Now, how did you end up in Living Colour?
I was, it was happenstance is how I got into Living Colour. A friend of mine, a girl I used to date, was having a birthday party on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, and she invited me to this party. And subsequently, Vernon Reed, the guitar player from Living Colour, was there with his sister, who was her friend. And we were all sort of congregating, talking, laughing, giggling. A wheel out of cake, and the girl says, I don't want anybody to sing happy birthday to me. I want Corey to sing happy birthday. So that's what I did. I sang happy birthday. And Vernon and I struck up a conversation afterwards. A couple of weeks later, he called me up. He said, he's looking for a singer for his band. Would I mind coming over and checking out some of his music? So I did. And the rest, as they say, is history.
What do you think made Living Colour? What made you guys so popular? I mean, you guys just blew up on the scene. I mean, it was a matter of, you had a different look, you had a different sound. I mean, what do you think? Was it MTV starting to play you? I mean, what would you say was the main reason that you all of a sudden became very popular?
We were very, 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 very fortunate. We had a team of people at the record company that was very into the idea of what we were doing and what we were trying to say. We were not afraid of hard work, was the other thing. We would go. We'd get in a van and travel across the country. Now, it seemed like it was overnight success for us. It was not. It took a while. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it didn't take a very long time, but it took a while. And we were very fortunate in that we had made a video before we made Cult's Personality. And we went on the road touring for months at a time, and playing everywhere and anywhere we could at first. And we had that one song that people seemed to really sort of gravitate toward. And this is back in the day when radio was really king. It wasn't about MTV. There was no internet, so it was about radio was king. And when people played, the radio stations played our songs, we get phones, which is people calling up and asking, who is that and what is that? So that sort of helped us along. And then we put out the video for Cult's Personality, and there was a visual aspect connected to that song that they heard, and now they understand. And, the biggest sort of question was, are they going to accept what they see? And we were really up for that conversation, that about the idea that here are four black men playing, heavy rock music, and we had no compunction about it. Will the rest of the world? And that became a part of its allure, I think, was that we're coming closer to transcending the idea of music having a racial component. Unfortunately, I don't think that. I think we're still in that space, but at the time, it looked like we were about to achieve a goal.
Now, how did the record companies look at that? Because, record companies, it's all about business. And as you said, there was an allure, but it's a chance they're taking. Were you toasted by the record companies? I mean, were you like, we got to sign these guys, or did it take you a while to get a good deal?
It took us a while to get a good deal. It really did. People were very, very interested in what we were doing. And they understood that the music was compelling. They understood that we, as individuals and as a collective, were something to not to take very seriously. We were all, Vernon had started the Black Rock Coalition, basically to put the industry on notice that music should not be segregated, and just as much as as the music was started by people of color, it should include people of color at that particular point in time, and still does. So any record company coming towards us knew that that was our politic. That was our politics. That we were trying to break down the color barrier that existed within the music industry. So if they were coming to us, they were coming knowing that that's where we were coming. That's how we were going to approach this idea. We also had a lot of help, because we had met and befriended Mick Jagger, who was very interested in what we were doing and how we were doing it, and understood just how integral what we were doing was, how a part of the scene that was necessary there. And with his blessings, people became even more interested. And like you said, that people saw dollar signs. If Mick Jagger sees how the efficacy of a band like Livng Colour, who else wouldn't?
Now, how for you as a frontman? Because I always think, you can't take a class how to be a frontman. You either have it or you're not. How was it for you going from, you guys were working your ass off, playing smaller gigs, touring, then all of a sudden you start building up, and then I know you opened for the Stones. How did you evolve as a frontman? And at any point during that evolving, were you scared or intimidated a little bit by the size of a crowd?
Yeah, you could be. You could be intimidated by it all. But what I had going for me was my acting training, which was just theatrical training. So you are doing what you're doing so that the person in the last row in the back can hear you and see. So you have to project your voice. You have to project your persona, given what the music is saying, to the back of the room. And that doesn't. You could be in a stadium. You could be in a closet. You have to be able to control where your thoughts and your feelings are being projected out to. So I'm not saying I was really good at it at first. I probably was not. I'm almost guaranteed I was not very good at it. But it was a crucible of fire. I was thrown into it, and I had to make it work. I had to make it work. The music would not allow me not to make it work.
Now, with the music, because you had a great sound, it was hard, it was different. What were your influences as a younger kid when you were starting to get into music and deciding to sing? I mean, what did you think you would eventually sing? Did you think it would be a hard rock, or what were your influences?
Oh, I liked everything, but I did love rock music. I did love hard rock music. I did love AC/DC. I did love Cream and the Doobie Brothers, and I loved the Rolling Stones. What I loved about it was when they melded certain things together. Like when you saw that, for what it's worth, when they took ideas that came from disco or R&B or from the blues and infused it into this music. That's how rock and roll got started. Was somebody took the blues and turned it up to 12. So I always loved to hear that kind of thing where people knew their roots and would use their roots and use it as a platform to reach even higher, to move even further. My biggest influence as a singer was really Michael Jackson as a kid. Like in the Jackson 5 was like he is my favorite singer of all time. I also, because as a theater angle, I saw Jesus Christ Superstar, the film, Carl Anderson and said, I want to do that. I want to be that guy. Because the way he sang it, and the songs were, there's a rock songs, and he had a bluesy sort of very down home kind of thing against this rock music. That's what I loved about, listening to the Rolling Stones. They did that all the time. That's what Aerosmith does to this day. So yeah, those are a lot. I gotta say, I got a lot of influence.
Well, that's good. I think, I think we're around the same age, so it was just different music back then. There was so much to listen to, and I had my older brother who had Chicago albums and Steely Dan, and I had my friends.
Absolutely. Steely Dan was a major influence to me. I love the Steely Dan.
Yeah, I just listened the other day to Asia. I posted on Facebook. I said, it's a rainy day in New Jersey. What should I listen to? And someone said Asia, and I forgot how great of an album that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just in how it sounds. Oh, the Royal Scam is also a really good album. Just the album, just as a piece, as a whole piece. It's incredible.
Now, the first album for you guys is a hit. What is it like when you start becoming a star? I mean, because you were everywhere. You were on SNL, which back then SNL made a difference when people played. You were, you were on MTV in the heavy rotation. What's it like now you're an actor, so you know how to be in a role. That's one thing. But all of a sudden, you're not on set. Every day your life is somewhat of a role because people recognize you. How does a younger guy handle that? And how do you not get an ego? Because we can all say we're not going to get an ego, but if we're young and we're famous, there's got to be a little bit of an ego that hits you.
Oh, yeah, that'll hit you, but there are lots of factors that'll keep your ego in check. My family and my friends kept my ego in check. I mean, I came off the road. I tell the story all the time. I came off the road with the Rolling Stones. I'm on the biggest tour in the world at that particular point in time. I'm home for a break for a couple of days. And as the rock star got handed a bucket of paint and a paintbrush and said, go paint the front stoop. So, and my friends would drive by and go, hey, rock star, I see you got your old job back. So it wasn't, keeping my ego in check was rather easy in some cases. My idea about what I was doing was that, yeah, it was important, but in the grand scheme of things, it's there to entertain. Hopefully the message will get through, but what you're there to do is to entertain people. So let's know that when it's time to entertain, you're entertained. When it's time to paint the stoop, you paint the stoop. There's a difference.
Now, what was the pressure on the second album? Because your first album was a hit, you won a Grammy. I mean, everyone says there's always pressure because, people don't know, record companies are all about money. A lot of people don't know. You did this big video. Guess what? The band's paying for it. It's coming out of their advance. People don't know that. What is it like when you guys go in studio for the second album? Because you've won a Grammy, you're popular. What's your focus, and what were they asking of you?
They obviously wanted another hit. They wanted another hit record. They wanted something that was compelling. We wanted to, at this point, by the time we gotten to make the next record, we had played the first record to death. And we had brand new ideas and brand new things that we had to say. That was one particular statement that we wanted to make another statement with the next record. So we weren't trying to make Cult of Personality 2.0. We were trying to make the next Livng Colour record. And that all of these things were in an effort to keep moving, to move forward, not to move laterally, but to keep going as far ahead as we possibly could from where we started.
Now, the album had good success. Was it enough for the record company, or did they sit there and start formulating what you need to do on your third album?
No, they did not. They were like, let's concentrate on the task at hand. And like I said, we were very fortunate to have a record company that understood that sort of thing, that understood what we were trying to do, that we weren't trying to be an overnight success, nor were we trying to sort of cookie cutter our way into making music. That our emotions and where we are and how we saw the world changed from we were at that particular point in time. So, and the music has to reflect that.
Now, then, after the third album, you guys go your separate ways. What caused that? Was it a different in musical taste, what direction you wanted to go, or was it something that you guys were together already for a long time and you were growing?
Yeah, we burned out. We don't sit around when we start to work. We make a record, and we get on the road. We make a record, we get on the road, and 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 then we go back and make another record. And in the meantime, our lives at home are falling apart to a large degree. A lot of things are going on that we needed to break. And I think we all knew that when the band sort of took a hiatus, that it was only going to be temporary. That at some point we were going to get back together, and at some point we're going to do this again. We just need to be. You just need some time to recuperate and to recharge our batteries.
Now, how did you go about doing that? What was your technique of recharging?
I made my own record. I went into the studio and started writing and recording a new album, my own album called Hymns. And I started in my apartment, really. Like, I'd invite friends over who I admire as musicians, and friends of mine that were local guys, and we sat around and jammed, and we started making music, and we started making really good music, I think. And it was to reflect, my influences, that I listened to Bill Withers and Al Green growing up, and I was trying to make that a part of that kind of music personally. Plus, I was, and like I said, I listened to Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers, and I listened to all kinds of other stuff, and I was trying to make a record that reflected that part of my personality.
Now, is it?
And I was doing some acting as well. I was doing some musical theater. I was doing some movie stuff. I kept busy, and didn't have to think constantly about what Livng Colour needed or wanted.
So you're basically developing on your creative side without the pressure. It was something where you could say, I can do this, I can do that. What is it like recording a solo album, though, when you've been involved with a group? I mean, how do you find the musicians to play on your album? You said you had people come over, but did you just sit there and go, hey guys, I want you to lay down this track, or did you put a band together, or what did you do?
I put a band together, actually. I did. I put a band together of people, people that I knew, and I made that the focus. The focus was, if we were all working in the same sort of area, if we're all going in the same direction, the music will reflect that. And that's what was necessary for me.
So you're doing the solo thing. Now, how eventually does Livng Colour get back together? What happened?
It didn't take much. It didn't take long, And, the thing had been in the works forever. Ever since we had stopped working together, it was like, okay, when are we going to do this? When are we going to do this? Is now a good time? No, now is not a good time. I got all sorts of stuff I got to do. And we were constantly talking to each other about when and how we would do it. And finally we did, and it worked, and we just kept going from then on. We just moved. I don't have particular dates or times or anything like that, but I know, like I said, I knew we were going to work this out. We were going to work together, and we were never going to not work together, but we just needed some time off. And I think we had a sufficient amount of time off, and then we went back to work.
Did you feel revitalized when you guys got back together? Finally, you got to get the shit out of your head?
Absolutely. We got a chance to really sort of observe rather than be a part of. To sit back and look back at what we were doing and say, okay, that worked, that didn't work, this worked, that didn't work, we can shit can that, we can move that over there, we can put this over here. And really utilize the resources that we had that we didn't take advantage of before we took the break.
Now, you get back together, but then Jesus Christ Superstar, you mentioned earlier, it comes up. How did that come about? And first of all, it must have been something that you probably said, I have to do this because that was an influence. Did they approach you, or you're back with the band? I mean, how did it come up?
They looked, I was doing, like I said, when they were taking a break, I was doing this show, this off-Broadway thing, downtown in Manhattan, down on Bleecker Street for a while, and some of the producers had seen me in that, and they were basically heard my biography and me talking about how Superstar was the thing I've always wanted to do, and they called me up and said we're mounting a tour of Jesus Christ Superstar. We're going to have Ted Neeley from the movie in it, and we'd like you to audition. So I did. I auditioned several times, and I finally auditioned with Ted, which was amazing because this is like a dream come true for me. And boom, I'm doing it, and I'm happy with it. I couldn't be happier with doing that show. That was the best time of my life, really.
Well, what was the contrast? Because in music, you're playing a tour, you're playing you're playing a set list. In acting, you're still performing every night, but it's probably you're giving a lot more than just singing because you have to do everything. Mentally, how did you take the whole? I mean, being on a stage play is grueling as hell. I mean, you guys every night, and it's not like, okay, you can take a night off. You have to deliver, because if you don't, you're screwing the rest of the cast over. What was it like for you? Like every night, I mean, was it easier because you had the background of going and playing in front of huge stadiums and places, or was it harder because you're like, this is about the whole cast now?
No, well, I've always felt like making art is a collective process, that I have to work as hard as anybody else does. Like, I can't slack off, so the drummer can't slack off, so my castmates can't slack off. If I'm giving them 110%, they gotta match it or do better, so that I can match it and do better for them. So it was a very familiar sort of thing. It's just a larger sort of situation with a lot more people that were involved. But it was extremely, extremely familiar for me, just to be able to say, yeah, I understand that, and to approach it, to like I said, to use use the things that I learned as an actor in this situation. It was very, very, very helpful. And using what I know as a musician in a rock band, doing a rock opera, was very helpful as well.
Now, did the production wrap, or did you decide to leave it?
No, the production wrapped. I left, but I did. They did try to continue it on after me, but it stopped. They stopped production, and then I started working with Livng Colour. So they were like, we're not going to do it. We won't do it. We'll do it without you. So it's fine. Go with my blessing.
Now, you're working with Livng Colour, but did you sit there thinking of pursuing other avenues of the acting or trying to get on Broadway? Because you have a name, you have the credits, and it's something that people, it's one of those selling points with Corey Glover from Livng Colour. It's one of those things that it could possibly be did you think about doing that at all?
I did think about doing it, and I'm still thinking about doing it. I'd love to do some Broadway. If there's anyone looking to do that kind of stuff, I love doing that kind of stuff. The opportunities have not presented themselves lately, but if they did, I would. I have no problem. I would have loved to have been, I don't know how I would have fit into something like Hamilton or anything like that, but I would love to do some more Broadway and do some legit Broadway. Right now, there is no legit Broadway, right, because everything's shut down. But but if and when it comes back, I'd love to do some of that.
Now, have you thought about pursuing TVs and movies at all? I mean, because you seem like a guy. You're an actor and a musician. You got a lot of quality. You can tell you're talented because you've had success at both. But have you thought about saying, hey, you know what? Maybe I should go to L.A. during pilot season or anything like that?
I did that once. I did go to L.A. during pilot season a couple of times, and they were not very interested in me. I don't know why. Work is work. I love the work, and working is paramount. And if there's work to be had, I'll love to do it.
Now, what's the future of Living Colour? I mean, you guys, you're still recording. Is it something that you guys do it? But I know you've had projects with George Lynch, you've got other projects. What is the? How does it fall into Corey's circle of life?
Whatever comes up, comes up. Living Colour is my priority, without question. So when Living Colour needs something to be done, I'm there for it. And as you said, I have other projects. I'm doing this thing with Joe and everybody in this Soul Saver thing. I'm working with George Lynch with Ultraphonics. I'm doing this other band called Disciples of Verity, which is this metal band I'm working with. I'm also working with Mike Orlando from amazing guitar player. I'm still doing my own solo work. I got stuff to do. And depending on who needs me when, I'm there.
How do you keep your head focused on like the different projects? Because they're all different kinds of sounds. You got to sit there and deliver it one day. Do you sit there and go, hey, today I'm going to work with George Day, and this I'm going to work on this? Or how do you keep it all focused?
Well, it's all part of a bigger plan. All I'm doing is I'm working my gifts. I'm using my gifts to the best of my abilities and looking at whatever situation that I'm in and trying to use as much of what I have to give the best I got.
Now, have you ever thought about writing a musical for yourself, like a rock opera, because you have that background?
No, not at all. I've thought about writing stuff, not for myself. I've written some things that I think would be very interesting, but they're not specifically for me.
How do you keep up the schedule you have? I mean, do you eat well? You sit there, you've been in the business for a long time. You've had different projects. You've done a lot of things. How, you're 55 or 56 right now. How do you keep yourself in shape somewhat? Because, as we get older, you wake up and you're like, oh crap, my back hurts, or this, and you sit there.
Yeah.
How are you keeping yourself in shape?
The more you work, the better it gets for me. That's how I see it.
Well, that's awesome, man. Give some promotions. What's going on? What can people look for? Where can people find you?
Just anywhere on the socials. It's usually under my name. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm everywhere you need to find me. Just write my name down in the search engine, and you'll find me there.
Great. So people, please check out Corey. Go check out Living Colour. Check out Corey. Check out his latest project. It's great. The song House Arrest. And check out my website, coopertalk.net. You can find over 800 episodes. Email me at cooper@coopertalk.net. Remember, I'm Steve Cooper. I'm only as hip as my guests. Don't forget, drink your water, eat your vegetables, take your vitamins, and I'll talk to you guys next time.